Now it has been 72 hours of high-octane politics. The running mate headache for two of the leading presidential candidates, Raila Odinga and William Ruto, keeping their followers guessing. At the end, it was Gachagua for Ruto and Martha for Raila in what has been termed as a carefully calculated selection, 84 days to the polls. Good evening and welcome to this edition of Pundits Night. I'm Abubakar Abdullahi. Welcome to this broadcast. Remember, you can be part of this discussion. Send us a message on 22047. The hashtag to use is Pundits Night. And as earlier publicized, we have a panel of professors. Professor Peter Kagwanja and Professor Edward Kisiangan'i are with us in studio. Professors, good evening, and thank you for your time tonight.
Yes, thank you.
We have a lot to talk about in Kenya's developing politics, 84 days to the polls. But Professor Peter, let me start with you. Two of the leading presidential candidates have picked each their running mates from central Kenya, which begs the question, why central? Is it a case of numbers, as some view, or better negotiators?
I think in the case of central, it's all about numbers and who can deliver numbers, given the challenge each of the candidates is having. Let's start with the numbers themselves, and you'll find out that between Murang'a and Kiambu, for example, you have the whole number for what you'd call Raw Eastern, just the two counties. So Kiambu, Kirinyaga, Nyeri, Nyandarua, and Laikipia are additional, and not to mention the influence those have on Nakuru and Nairobi itself. So it's a more complex number. People talk about 5 million, others talk about 3 million, but essentially we are talking about Nairobi and its vicinities. Therefore, it's all about numbers. When you go on the other hand and find the competition, for example, in Lower Eastern, it's 1.6 for three counties of Machakos, Kitui, and Makueni. Obviously, you cannot ignore the Kamba diaspora at the coast, but in total, you can say the same about the Kikuyus and Kisiangan'i and elsewhere. So, in short, we are saying it's all about numbers that will deliver you to the presidency. And Professor, you know better than me that where numbers are involved, there is risk. We will talk about that political risk. Professor Edward Kisiangan'i, perhaps the same question. Is it numbers, as Professor Peter says, or are they better negotiators?
I think both, and probably the third one. This Mount Kenya region has numbers, and you cannot do your politics without that region. You must know what they think. They are top business people in this country. They have the business acumen. They have resources. So they, as people with resources, you want also these people to associate with you. But more important is the fact that they also negotiate very well. You can see there was a huge cluster of people from that region who are negotiating on behalf of either Peter, Kenneth, and in fact, majority of them made it to the final list for the Azimio team. So they are very good negotiators. And why is that? It's because they are the most politically conscious community in our country. And that is really helping. While some other communities are sleeping and they don't think about how to proceed, these guys know where power is. They smell the power. They want to appropriate it. They want to be relevant to any political dispensation that forms in our country. So that is the reason why they are. And
Prof, you say politically conscious. Yes. Primarily, is it because of producing Kenya's 3 of the 4 presidents?
Yes, it hasn't been a fluke. They have good education. They have invested in education. They are good business people, and they are. Because of that, they're careful about where power will go, because it will affect the educated people. It will also affect their businesses. So really, this is a constituency. No politician in this country, unless they are so naive, born to die. A good politician will always look at Mount Kenya. And they take advantage, they take their chances when they are being approached.
Professor Peter, we're talking of the central card. Is it a card that must be on the table for anyone to win in any presidential race in this country?
It's not about the card, because you might tribalize this debate and it look like you're choosing a heifer or something like that. You're talking about, as Professor is saying, a very, very conscious people about their position in this country. They are in the middle of the country. They have no seaport next to them, no international boundary along them. Essentially, if you peel Kenya like an onion to the last bit, these are the people you find. And there is security in that, and there is insecurity in that. So the reason why we don't have a Kikuyu candidate or a candidate from Mount Kenya region with significance, even Muturi pulled out. The reason is you want to tell the other Kenyans that we want to be part of you. We want to be part of this country. Now it is for the other Kenyans to see whether they need them or they don't. And the answer seems to be that they need them. Obviously, there is a huge attempt now to see whether somebody like Kalonzo Musyoka will stay on board, and therefore doesn't make work very difficult for Azimio, for example. Or if he moves to UDA, and rather than being in the middle. Because that middleness is what has caused instability in the country in the past. So it is either you go to UDA or you stay with Azimio and let the country face each other that way.
And now, Prof, to be fair, Mwangi wa Iria is on record saying he wants to be the next president, given that he comes from one of those counties as we close the central card.
I wish he was winning. I would be with him. I love him to death. He's my governor. But it's always good to say, I had a child, it died. But it's always good to accept the reality as it is. So, I mean, he's my brother. I love him to death. But I don't think... The point, big point is that the Kikuyus, the way I know them, the Mount Kenya population, the power elite, for example, are long-term thinker about politics. They are the ones who elected Hassan Yusuf in Kamukunji so that they can line their vote in northern Kenya by saying to the Somali people, even though we have our skirmishes in Kamukunji, in those markets, we still can work together. And that Kikuyu Somali detente is a reflection of that long-term thinking and that strategic thinking that underpins the Kikuyu politics. Now, what you have seen here, the election of Mother as a deputy, is a total revolution that people are only going to see the result of it later, but let me stop there.
All right, because we will come to the specifics, given that we have laid ground for the discussion. Professor Peter, Professor Edward rather, two of the leading presidential contenders, Azimio's Raila Odinga and Kenya Kwanza's Deputy President William Ruto, have both their deputies from central Kenya. Quite two individuals with two massively experienced portfolios. But what are your initial thoughts of the two individuals?
My initial thoughts is that the two individuals qualify for the nomination. They are not school dropouts. They are conscious, good education. Mother Karua, she's a lawyer, an advocate of the High Court, and she has a university degree, so she has the basic requirements to become a running mate of any faction. On the other hand, Honorable Gachagua is also has a university degree. So in terms of qualification and intellectual awareness, they both qualify. So I have no problem with them, and I think they qualify. So that's my initial reactions. The two candidates have both chosen people who have the basic requirement, constitutional requirement, to become a running mate for this country, and they are potential presidents if opportunities allow. So they are perfectly okay. But unfortunately, politics is not just about these qualifications. There are other factors which will be at play very shortly, and which will distinguish between Martha Karua and Gachagua.
Prof, you say both meet the basic requirements.
Yes.
Of course, both are massively experienced politicians. One is actively serving as a member of parliament for Madira constituency in Nyeri County.
Yes.
The other is not serving member of parliament, but vied both in 2013 for the presidency and 2017 for the gubernatorial post in Kirinyaga County.
Yes.
This selection, as an analyst, Prof, what must have informed the selection of the two? Is it their persuasive nature? Is it the ability of bringing votes to the table?
I think there were very many considerations. First of all, now that you have asked this question, you must look at the reactions that came out of today's nomination from Martha Karua. The reactions from Kalonzo show that the president of Kenya, who is a supporter of Raila's, might have had a different choice, because Kalonzo has been very clear that the choice of Martha Karua was actually Raila's, not the president's, although they are friends. So that shows what considerations they had. I think that for president, probably he thought that Martha Karua does not fit in the requirements of being a running mate with regard to mobilizing people within Mount Kenya, despite the qualification. Probably the president thought that this Martha Karua doesn't have the quality to speak to the value system of the Mount Kenya region, and so the business community, and they wouldn't probably think she's a safe person to have. So in that connection, I think that is the parting point between the president and Raila Odinga. But because the presidential candidate is Raila Odinga, I think the president left it to Raila, and he's telling Raila that, okay, you pick Martha, but if you ban, don't come back to me. That is the message. Now, but the qualities that Raila might have looked at is the fact that Martha Karua has been a reformer in many aspects, has been part of the recent history of Kenya, and therefore Raila has also been associated with them. So she's a comrade to Raila's past. Unfortunately, the Raila we have now is not the Raila of the 1990s, who was fighting with the Moi government alongside Martha.
In which way, Prof?
In fact,
he says he's still fighting for Kenyans.
He is in fighting, because so that we don't lose that, I will come to that point. The second person is Rigathi Gachagua, because you asked me about the two candidates.
Fair enough.
If you look at Rigathi Gachagua is bare knuckles, and he keeps talking about his ancestry in the Mau Mau revolution. He appeals to the people on the streets. He can mobilize. He's articulate and has good language. He knows what to speak in a public rally. He can mobilize. In terms of mobilizing skills, I think Gachagua has better mobilizing skills than Martha Karua. So in terms of mobilization, maybe Gachagua will be having an upper hand. So Raila might have looked at the history of Martha Karua. Ruto might have looked at the mobilizing skills, and the fact that Gachagua has been very loyal to Raila, to Ruto. Now, coming to the question of the different Raila and the current Raila, my brother Kagwanja is here. He knows I'm on record complaining about the BBI. You have had this wing by Raila Odinga already saying the main business not to reform the economy, but to reform the constitution, change the constitution. I had issues. If really the Martha Karua of 1990, the Raila Odinga of 1990, would never accept a constitution that empowers the executive to control the judiciary and parliament, because that is what made them suffer. And now that they think they lost, they think they can get power, and they use that power to get back to BPI and control the two branches of government. It is a bad omen. It's an ominous talk that we had. So if you come beyond that and now you come to the current Raila Odinga, Raila Odinga is benefiting from the past. He's glorifying the past of of Martha Karua, but that past is irrelevant, because the Martha Karua we have, the Raila Odinga we have, is not the Raila Odinga that people used to celebrate, not the Martha Karua that people used to celebrate.
Professor Edward, just to be fair to Martha Karua, she opposed the BBI, and she's on record having rejected that document. In fact, she was one of the respondents in a court of law, both at the Court of Appeal, the High Court, and the Supreme Court. Nonetheless, Professor Peter, we are talking of Martha and ODM's Azimio rather selection. Of course, there was the panel that was tasked with recruiting, one among the many who were interviewed, and the applicants. But whose choice was Martha? As Professor says, she was, in his view, Raila Odinga's choice.
Martha was people's party and people's choice. I remember I tweeted about a week ago and said, Martha's choice. And when I did that, I met with my sister, Sabina Chege, who in everybody's, within the Jubilee fraternity, was the crown princess. And I wasn't comfortable, she wasn't comfortable, because it was already out there in the open. And obviously I come from Muranga, and therefore I'm supposed to be locally patriotic about the next deputy president coming from my county. I would say that mother was chosen by the powerful women within the Azimio movement. They sold her without pulling back. All of them, from Charity Ngilu to everybody you can mention, including Raila Odinga. They all sold her. That's one. Second, obviously mother has a track record as the only man standing. And that image of the last man of 2008, when the country was burning and the Mount Kenya were on the receiving end, that has never left the psyche of the people. So she still appealed to people that way. And thirdly, she's a good negotiator. I think she really did a good job in terms of negotiation. In some cases with some difficulties, and in others with a lot of ease. And therefore, mother from the Mount Kenya region had no competition in Azimio to that extent. Obviously, there were those now what Edward called the Robbies, the powerful Robbies of Mount Kenya. I mean, Peter Kennedy is my friend. I love him. We meet and so on. But there must be more than just the connections to make to the presidential. But remember, we are choosing the next president of the republic. And I had difficulties with some of the names that were brought there. And I can bet every cow in my barn, if any of the 2 Jubilee candidates who were chosen was ready today, that would be the death sentence for Azimio, because it would have been Raila and himself alone. This time round, even if Raila does not go to Mount Kenya region to climb the mountain, he has people to climb the mountain for him. He has the Joshuas and others. So
we will come to climbing the mountain, Prof. So just on the question of Karua, Prof.
Karua, so,
yes. If we are talking of politics and basically numbers, one would say this is a candidate who lost a gubernatorial election in 2017, who vied as a president in 2013 and got 43,881.
Yes, you're asking the right person the right question, because I was a Kibaki man, and I know how mother was fixed. How this mother, who is very uncooperative, very undiplomatic, very rigid, was produced. Because there was competition between Mother Karua and Uhuru Kenyatta. Let it be in public. That's how it was. Because mother expected, naturally, as a DP person coming from the Kibaki side, to be the deputy prime minister when the seats were shared. She wasn't given, and she did not hide her feelings about being so. When Kiraito was made the constitutional minister, when mother had fought for Kibaki throughout the 90s, 1992 they fell together with Kibaki. 1997 they fell together. 2002 they win, and she loses the seat. So mother, naturally, like a normal human being, felt bad and thought that this is a male patriarchal society where a woman has no place. And we went on as men, basically to behave like that. And when it came to 2013, we simply cited her, oh, that girl from Kirinyaga, people did not see the dynamo, the power that is Mother Wangari. They didn't.
All right.
Because there was a power struggle within the Mount Kenya region. Now, what has happened today, as I was saying, is seismic, in the sense that Wangari is a bird that was caged. It is now uncaged. Let's see how she's going to transform the politics of Mount Kenya. And
given that you give the preamble of bird, we'll equally question how far she can fly in terms of bringing numbers to Azimio. Hold on that, Prof. Professor Edward, we are talking of Martha, who is of course generally a female, which begs the question, does she bring the women card, the women voters with her strategically?
If you look at the voting patterns in this country, Abu, you realize that the men, actually in Kenya, more men vote for women candidates than women. And I've done some little research, and I find out that the greatest critics of women candidates in this country have been women. So that brings us to the question whether her candidature is going to attract more women voters or not. The jury is out there, but I suspect if we go by this trend, this euphoria you are seeing around here might not necessarily translate into women voters going the Martha way. You cannot tell for now, but we are using the past statistics to look to women. If really women were to vote for women, Charity Ngilu, because sometimes they turn out they're big voters, they vote in large numbers more than the men, but Charity Ngilu would be already a presidential candidate. I mean, our president in '97. Many women turned up and they didn't vote for Charity Ngilu. So maybe, as he says, it is seismic. It's going to change this time, but we need scientific evidence to show that this pattern will change with regard to Martha. In the next few days, you will see how it pans out. But for now, I think that you cannot be certain that this is going to turn into it might even just be hot air. And
Prof, in this particular case, yes, given that a woman is deputizing one of the two leading presidential candidates,
yes,
is it not, in your view, persuasive enough to the women and say potentially if you vote for this candidate, you will have the first deputy female president?
It is not just about that. If you look at our country, there are certain interest groups that have formed. People don't vote for you because you are a man. People don't vote for you because you are a woman. That is a tired argument that is no longer making sense. People want to vote for you because you represent certain values. You want to change the economy, you can change their lives. So beyond the woman, that is Martha Karua, what else can she offer? Both men and women are going to ask that question. Gachagua is not going to be voted in because Gachagua is a man. Gachagua is going to be voted in because he represents certain values. Same with the deputy president, same with Raila. So if you look at the conversations that we get within the social media and other places, I think Kenyans are facing serious problems, and every presidential candidate stroke running mate should go out and address those issues. So if Mother is sitting on the platform and coming in on a platform of being a woman as the main thing that will deliver votes for Raila Odinga, she is in for a shock.
Is she, Prof?
In for a shock? No, I mean, the Mother did not come in as a woman. Let's face it that way. I used the phrase at the beginning, on January 2nd, 2008, and I had that palpable moment myself. She was the last man standing. When she walked to the BBC to speak, we all were glued to the screen to listen to what Mother was saying. She was a powerful voice for Mount Kenya. That is the voice that has come back. And it is the voice that people hope is going to make a change. Now, the point is, she's a beaten person. In 2013, she entered. The results were clear. In the gubernatorial, she did not only fight in the trenches, but fought throughout the courts, and finally to the court, the East African court. Meaning, she did not believe, and I don't believe she lost that election. I don't believe for a minute. She didn't lose at a minute. But I'm a man from Mount Kenya, and I know what games we're playing. Now, Mother is free. Mother was the choice of the Raila men. Because the Raila men knew they needed something made of steel. They did not need something light. You can say anything, but that girl is strong. That girl is strong.
She is a candidate, as we move from her, Prof, who has well-documented differences with the sitting president, President Uhuru Kenyatta. How well does this augur well within the Azimio family as we move away from this?
But you have heard what we said. The Azimio family this is a transition. On the 10th of August 2022, this will be a Raila Odinga government. Or this is going to be William Ruto's government. The rest is history.
You know what, Abu?
All right, go ahead, Prof.
We are now, the luckiest person in what has happened is President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yeah.
And which way is he lucky, Prof?
He's very lucky. He has taken off Raila's burden from his shoulders. The reason is this. Uhuru has been campaigning for Raila Odinga ferociously. But now, he has found a small thing in Mother. The running mate is not Uhurus. So if Raila today lost the election, we go to the election in August and Raila loses, Uhuru has an excuse. So the happiest person in this is Uhuru Kenyatta.
I like this.
Yes, and I'm telling you.
But Prof, in the same statement, you are saying it is President Uhuru Kenyatta who has, in your own word, ferociously campaigned for him. Would you campaign for him to that extent of wanting to lose?
Did you listen to Peter Kagwanja?
Absolutely.
And if you listen to me carefully, I think Uhuru might have preferred Sabina Cheke or Peter Kenneth. But Raila Odinga stuck with Martha. So suppose the elections go bad, all this blame you have been having against Uhuru Kenyatta will say, had you followed my instructions, my preference, probably Raila would have won. So he has got an escape. Raila provided Uhuru Kenyatta with an escape route. And that is where we are now. If Ruto becomes the president as he's going to be, Uhuru will say, Raila didn't listen to me. That is the beauty of this.
I like what Professor is saying, because the mother has not only provided Uhuru with an escape route, so that if he doesn't campaign, you say mother is strong enough to do that, but he has also liberated himself. Yes. Because a president who is actively choosing his successor is a very dangerous trend for this republic. Because we lack a caretaker. If Raila and Ruto go neck to neck, yes, who would separate them?
Yes.
And the person holding the national dagger, the symbol of power, is aligned squarely to somebody else. Yes. It's very dangerous for our republic. But do you see, we are not courageous to say that Uhuru goofed.
He made a mistake.
It was a huge mistake to go out openly and wage war on the opponent of one of your supporters. It doesn't mean that he cannot align himself or support Raila Odinga. That's not what it means.
Prof, you say Uhuru has made a mistake. For a Raila fan, for instance, or Azimio follower, who looks at the numbers, poll after poll, sees an increase of Raila's percentage share in central Kenya, month after month. That person would argue the president is doing enough to let Raila climb the mountain, isn't it?
But Raila did it for himself. He climbed the mountain himself. At what point have you seen them on cars together, campaigning together? At none.
Yes.
So let me say, credit be given to the deal. When Raila went to Nyeri to address the public in Gachagua's stronghold, he had one of the greatest reception. We are saying the Kikuyu people traditionally have always this distancing themselves from the president who is leaving, so that they can have the space to make their decision. They did not like Jomo Kenyatta between 1974 and 1978. It is in history.
Yes.
They did not like Daniel Moi from 1992 to 2002. They did not like for a minute Mwai Kibaki. They started liking him from 2010, when the constitution said very clearly he cannot be a candidate, and he decided to be a lame duck president himself, basically doing the little he needed to do. And finally, let's not be cheated. Currently, they are not with Uhuru Kenyatta, at least at this election.
Despite the increase in poll numbers.
It has nothing to do with the antipathy towards a living president is a historical trend.
Yes.
And the only science is social science are trends. So Jomo Kenyatta was not popular with the Kikuyus from 1970.
All right, Prof, let me interject you there. You say it is Raila who is climbing the mountain on his own.
Yes.
To be fair, we have seen him campaign in that region. When the president's political party is aligned with Raila Odinga in the Azimio family, when you have members who are vying on the president's political party of Jubilee, campaigning for their presidential candidate, Raila Odinga,
that's not the point.
Is it that easy, Prof?
The machinery of the state has decided to evenly, I know Edward do not like this, the machinery of the state, forget about the personalities on top, but the machinery has decided to give William a space. That's why he's never been harassed. You've never seen vehicles stopped or anywhere. He has a space. They also decided to give Raila a space. The only difference is when the presidency tipped and went to one side. The machinery is known to be taking a very magisterial position in one way or another. And you've never seen any officer standing up and doing that. But the party that supported Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga chose to be in BBI, and the BBI was Uhuru and Raila. But when BBI lost, Uhuru had no game. I asked one of my friends, what did Uhuru Kenyatta's victory look like in BBI? He had no victory. Victory for William meant it will be defeated and that momentum will go low, which worked. For Raila Odinga is that BBI will rise up, then we'll have the referendum and the momentum will be built to State House. Right. What was Uhuru Kenyatta's victory like in that BBI game?
Professor Edward.
There is no victory for Uhuru, but he has been carrying a burden. Uhuru's burden has been Raila Odinga. Everything he has done with Raila Odinga hasn't worked. Now, he has been looking for a place to breathe. He has been looking for a door to escape from the inferno. Today, Uhuru Kenyatta escaped. And so, if you look at Raila Odinga, also Uhuru was a burden. You know, these are two burdens within the same compound. Uhuru was a burden to Raila Odinga. I suspect Raila Odinga would have done very well without Uhuru. But as Peter is saying, looking at Uhuru defending Raila Odinga and pushing so hard for his candidature caused suspicions. There were people who probably would vote for Raila freely, but they said there must be something wrong. So in a nutshell, if you look at Mount Kenya, Raila Odinga is not a reasoned politician in that area. He has gone there. The president has never come out in Mount Kenya to just go out to campaign. He talks from Nairobi. But Raila Odinga has gone there. So if you look at this pollsters... And
to be fair, the president has equally met grassroots leaders in Sagana 3 times.
He has called them, but you know, it's closed door. I think Kagwanja goes there. I don't know what they talk. But let me just tell you something. When you have a situation like the one that is unfolding right now, and the president hasn't campaigned for, there's this little matter about pollsters that you are referring to. If you are talking about infra truck, yes, you know there are pollsters that have been highly ethnicized and politicized. You know, Kagwanja and myself passed through university. There is a science behind it. But now, some quacks are doing what you call pollsters. On both sides, you see people doing pollsters. Even they do it on the net. Look at the science, the sampling procedures, the methodology, and see whether these ones are correct. So when you hear the Mizanis of this world predicting that Raila is now rising, Ruto is like this, unless you have your own scientific internal poll, don't believe these polls. They could be misleading, and on the 9th of August, you'll be shocked by the outcome.
And before that shock, Prof, that you foresee, is this then to rule out the influence of a sitting president who politically was backed by the region that is central?
You see, the problem with the sitting president, he has been forcing a Raila candidature on a community. Let's look at Uhuru Kenyatta and compare with Mwai Kibaki, for example. If the president of Kenya, who was pursuing the Raila candidature, was Mwai Kibaki, I think, Peter, the situation would be slightly different. Kibaki was extremely valued. He was respected. He looked after the economy very well. And so, I think the people in Mount Kenya that I said have a business mind would have probably listened to Kibaki telling them, go and support Raila Odinga. But if you go to central Kenya, we are scholars, their businesses have collapsed. Kids are not in school. There are many problems that are going on, and they expected Uhuru Kenyatta to solve those problems. The dairy industry, the coffee industry, the tea industry, these things are not working to the level that people of Mount Kenya can say they are working well. So when the same person who is in charge of government fails to solve those problems and then suggests who should take over from him, there is a problem. So don't talk about those pollsters. So the sitting president can influence these things, but the more Uhuru supports Raila Odinga, the more people move towards Ruto.
And Prof, hold on that thought, because we will come to the influence of the president as a politician after this break. You're watching Pundits Night. Remember, you can be part of this discussion that has panel of professors. Send us a message on 22047. Time for us to take a short break. This discussion will be back after this break.
Disabled or able-bodied, we all have the power and responsibility to make society more inclusive for each and everyone. From experiences to listening to the disability community, we provide a platform where we interact with disabled individuals with the sole purpose of shedding light on their situation from a positive perspective.
Nilizaliwa bila mikono miwili. Hivyo nilijipata katika maisha, and I'm happy for that.
People are giving a lot of chances to people who are disabled people.
Join Muthoni Maina as she delves deeper this Saturday at 7:30 p.m.
We celebrate disability, an inclusive world and education. We need to know such person can go beyond the limit.
Fine latte was that?
Mr. Black Pepper, what's good?
Astounding Rasta mtaani. How are you, man? That is simping, bro. These men have no substance.
Bro, you need an apology for that.
You mean like we should give flowers to the girls?
Let's meet up 10 p.m. I'll do what I do best. Put a spice on it.
We need to teach these men how to be alphas.
Then we need a conference.
So let's get it.
Welcome to the Men's Conference, where men become alpha males.
Attitudes towards agriculture are already changing. The trend is steadily growing as the support for the agriculture sector is increasing by the day. The list of reasons is endless. That is why every week we visit a variety of farms in different counties to understand their journey in farming. We get informative perspectives and in-depth information that will help you kickstart your journey at the farm.
One goose in a way kutoka 4 kgs to 8 kgs.
You cannot do any farming without you knowing how your soil is.
Sandra Wahito embarks on this informative quest. Join her this and every Sunday at 6:30 p.m.
Tunaangazia viunganishi, ndio mada ambayo tunajikita kwayo siku ya leo.
Tutakuwa tukifanya yale mambo ambayo umekwisha kuyafanya pale darasani na mwalimu.
Nipate sentensi nyingine kutoka kwenu. Pale pana mkono.
Jina naitwa Franklin Ndungu. Na nitatunga sentensi. Sisi tumecheza, sisi hatujacheza.
Bibi naye amekula chumvi nyingi. Nini maana ya kula chumvi nyingi?
Kula chumvi ni kuwa mzee.
Tumpigieni makofi.
Hiki ni kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Ni kipindi ambacho kinakujia kila siku ya Jumamosi kuanzia saa 4 hadi saa 5 asubuhi, ukiwa nami Andrin Kilemi, lengo kuu likiwa ni kukuza lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
Times have changed. Events of seismic effects have tried to wear us down, but still we rise and conquer. A journey of humble beginnings has become a mission of the possible. Here at The Grind, all business-related questions are asked and all answers are pursued.
First thing I tell young entrepreneur is to set a farm foundation, right? So what is a farm foundation?
We break it down rather than just convey it as we traverse the different businesses in the market.
I'm the CEO and founder of Kenyatta Store.
I'm the fashion entrepreneur at Festive.
Welcome back to this edition of Pundits Night. Thank you for staying with Kenya's fastest growing television. Just a reminder of who our guests are. Panel of professors, Professor Peter Kagwanja and Professor Edward Kisiangan'i. We are making sense of the country's latest political development. Before we went for a break, Professor Edward, you had talked of influence and, for that matter, a president who is exiting. We have had quite a number of times in public President Uhuru Kenyatta endorse Azimio leader Raila Odinga. In one instance, he said, and I quote, "Do not allow Mwai Kibaki's 10 years and my 10 years to be destroyed by electing thugs and thieves." He said this in his native Kikuyu language. Of course, the messaging was targeted for the speakers of that language. But given this message, is there something on principle, perhaps, that the president knows that Kenyans don't? Hence, they should follow his guidance.
You see, Abubakar,
yes,
I don't buy that kind of line of thinking. This country has highly educated people, highly conscious people who know what's right and what's wrong. This country is not, we didn't elect President Uhuru Kenyatta. To be fair, we didn't elect President Uhuru Kenyatta to choose us as a successor. Did we? The job description was not for him to choose a successor. Under Article 1 of the Constitution, sovereignty belongs to the people. And it is delegated. It's one of the beneficiaries of delegated sovereignty. And therefore, he should do his job and leave. As to whether he knows something or not, the Constitution is very clear. If the president in his own consideration thinks that the deputy president is corrupt, is a thief, he needs to initiate a process with other officials who are enjoying delegated responsibilities from the people. He knows what to do. As Mwai Kibaki used to say, do what is right. He knows what to do. He should do what is right. But this idea that you want me to believe our president when he tells me so-and-so is a thief, and without evidence, I've spent all my life in school, and then you tell me Kagwanja is a thief and I should follow you and say he's a thief. This has not come out. So I don't want to talk about things which are subterranean. These underground things don't make sense. I want the president to tell us Ruto has stolen this. Even the Kimwarel and Aror Dam that came to the limelight, the person charged with the responsibility to prosecute people, who is Nurdin Haji, said this has nothing to do with the president, the deputy president. Right. What are you getting from that? In the absence of evidence, the rest is hearsay.
And Professor, given that you are saying a president, it's not part of the job description of a president of who to tell Kenyans to vote for.
Yes.
There was euphoria when he publicly, as a sitting then president, said, "Kumi yangu, kumi ya Ruto." Yes. By then, many would argue it's as though he never made a mistake in saying "Kumi ya Uhuru." Ya Ruto, rather.
You ask those who did some malulations because of that. I didn't. It was not him to tell us "Kumi yake, kumi Ruto." And that's why you have had, in many instances, the deputy president has argued that Uhuru hana deni yake. You go out to look for votes. And if people don't like you, don't blame anybody. So if people believed that because Uhuru, I would never like anybody to pin the president on that Kumi yake, now Kumi ya Ruto. He had no authority to do that. He had totally no authority to do that. Even Ruto has no authority to believe that. Once Uhuru's term ends in 10 years, that is the limit he can go. And what remains, you go back to Article 1. Sovereignty belongs to the people.
Professor Peter, yes, as you react to that, let me ask you this. Often in these discussions of the influence of the president politically, is it fair to say that there are some who underrate his political influence? They cite, for instance, Kiamba. One would argue, look at the percentages of loss and win. He still has an influence.
I think the people follow, power is not vacuous. Power is real. And power comes as you see it and it goes as you see. Now, Uhuru's power is going because the constitution dictates so. I saw President Kibaki in office towards the final years. And when power went, he would go to the church here in St. Andrews, in Westlands. And he would go just do his service, nobody would be around him. He gets into his car and go home. Because And to see President Kibaki when he was in power, you had to queue sometimes for weeks.
Yeah.
I was lucky I would go to Addis Ababa to array him there because my wife was the ambassador there. So when he comes to the AU meetings, I would grab a few moments and share. Those were very rare moments. Uhuru has respect for the people. We all respect him. He's a great son of our region and a son of Kenya. That one we can't deny. But in terms of succeeding himself, it's impossible.
All right.
In other words, and it is dangerous too. Look at Botswana. Ian Kama tried to fight his vice president or deputy president. They call them vice presidents there, Masisi. And Masisi was elected to power. What has happened to Botswana? For the first time, a country that was built meticulously by the founding fathers finds itself now divided. The ruling party has been in power for all the years. Now, the young Kama, with his military kind of feeling, is now fighting with the president. And the president is busy revising all the policies he had done.
Right.
It is a very dangerous trend. Why? Because as a young democracy that is looked upon by the region to be stable, we need a post-presidency. Now, Moi is gone, Kenyatta is gone, and Kibaki is gone.
Yes.
Who is the custodian of our democracy? In Tanzania, they have 2 or 3 sitting. Magufuli is gone, Mwinyi is there, and Jakaya Kikwete is there. They can call the country to order if it is not on fire. Why should ourselves? Should we put on ourselves on air dive?
All right.
When we can create an air. I mean, you say William is a thief. He has stolen. Who has in this country has not stolen? If I know. I mean, let's not use that. I would understand if Raila Odinga says that because he's fighting his opponent. But those of us who are living, we have no business judging who is and who is not a thief.
All right. Prof, point made, and we have discussed quite in length of the president's influence, and we have discussed Martha, and we mentioned earlier of the 2 leading presidential contenders. Let's discuss the Kenya Kwanza running mate, who is equally from central Kenya.
Yeah.
Professor Edward, Rigathi Gachagua is credited by many as a mobilizer. Equally tainted. Does that hinder? Does that taint?
You see, there are many things to consider. We want to go back to the Constitution. Our Constitution has mechanisms for determining who is corrupt, who is tainted, and who is not. So under the Constitution, Rigathi Gachagua, as far as I'm concerned, has not been convicted.
But he has cases in court of law.
He has cases in court. When you go to court and somebody has made a prayer in court, the court can dismiss or uphold your prayer. So up to where we are, Rigathi Gachagua is not a convict. But the people who are telling you that Rigathi Gachagua is corrupt are the same people who we have seen, especially in Azimio, telling you when they take power, they will jail people in committee under Manyani. I tell you, Abu, if Raila Odinga is going to be our president and he takes over the job of the judiciary, that is how he will jail people. So he will decide, you Abu, you are corrupt. Kagwanja, you are corrupt. Tomorrow you are going to committee. We want a president who will say, our institutions will work to look for the corrupt people and punish them according to the law. Not presidents who come on national television and say, all the corrupt people will go, and as if the same people telling us think they are clean and they are saints. So, Rigathi Gachagua, as far as I'm concerned, he has never been convicted in a court of law. Until those cases are determined, again, if he becomes our deputy president and then those cases translate into a conviction, again, the Constitution provides a mechanism for us to remove him. But this idea of generalization that this guy is a convict, where people arrest you on Friday and so that you can stay overnight,
but Prof,
we have messed up our national institutions. All I'm telling you, Abubakar, we need a leader who leaves our institutions to work independently and tell us who is and who is not corrupt.
Fair enough. You're talking of institutions. Given then, Prof, that some of these institutions are actively investigating with open case files of Rigathi Gachagua,
Yes.
allegedly accused of swindling monies to the tune of billions of shillings. And this is someone who potentially can be the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. Is that not a dint?
It is an allegation. The investigating authorities have no problem. They will come out with the findings. I've told you, get back to the Constitution.
All right.
Once the investigations are done and the courts are asked to make a determination based on evidence, the same Constitution provides that people who have violated the law, the removal of a deputy president under Article, I think, 145, it is very clear how we shall remove him. But don't start removing Kagwanja from running for office because somebody has made a claim. The claim will be determined by an arbitrator under our Constitution. That is the judiciary. And they will do it.
Professor Peter.
First and foremost, let me acknowledge this on television, that I know Rigathi Gachagua as a student, a fellow student. We were together at the university. We had a very nice name for him. He was, I must put this, one of the most hardworking and very innovative person. Innovative in the sense that he could manage to make money enough to buy land when we ourselves were struggling. Wow, because he was innovative in terms of the way he invested in music and all. So as I knew Jaguar, that's how we used to call him, Jaguar those days, Jaguar was really the better of us, and all of us admired him. He had a flair that you loved, that when we are going to act games or plays in Mombasa, he would fly to Mombasa and would come by road. Why? He knows how to work with power. He's not afraid of power, and he knows how to work with power. So whenever you wanted to see Mzee Moi, you would invariably go with Gachagua. So I did that many times, and it worked. I saw Mzee Kibaki for the first time seated down with Gachagua myself. So I knew him as such. But Mother Karua and Gachagua are two different kind of Kenyans. One is bureaucratic and a man of power. The other one is basically a man of a lady of society who know how to tap power of the movements. And this one knows how to tap the power of bureaucracy. That's the difference. Mother is very good in mobilization of power when it comes to movements, social movements, human rights movement and all. There is no movement in this republic which does not have Mother's signature, to the best of my knowledge. Any human rights group, women group, and so on. But at the same time, there is no person who is good as working with the people, the electorate, like Gachagua. Yeah. So we are seeing here the battle of the titans, if you wish. Battle of two different mates.
And given then, Prof, that it's down to the wire of the two as two leading running mates for the leading presidential contenders.
Yes, assuming...
Who appeals best politically, better than the other?
It's not about appealing. It has gone beyond appealing. It is about who is a better fighter and for which battle. And the people who have chosen them have chosen their skills. As I have said, Mother is formidable when it comes to social networking, those social movements. And you can trust me. Gachagua is a very good worker in the kind of bureaucratically related movements, because I have known that from the time as DOs all the way. Now, what does this mean, and why did William Ruto choose Gachagua? It is coming very close to the wire. You need a daredevil kind of a person, and I hope the system is listening. Gachagua is not your joke.
Just for the record, which system,
Prof? Yes, Gachagua is not... Let me finish this.
Just for the record, Prof, which system? Which system would you want to listen?
My system.
Right.
Now, the point is this. Gachagua is is the only person who is capable of foiling any movement, any political activity in Mount Kenya, and without you noticing his traces. He has done that, for those who know. Effectively, he messed. He kind of basically detoning what would be a political bombshell. He just does it. And because of that, That is what William Ruto needs in the finish. He has the people. Don't be cheated. William Ruto has the people, Mount Kenya. And I'm saying this openly because I have been in the trenches. You know, I'm a Senate candidate in Murang'a. So I'm talking about what I've been up to. William has the people, but he can lose them. And he's aware of that he's vulnerable. So to buttress his vulnerability and make himself stronger, there is no better person you could have gotten than Gachagua.
Why not your colleague professor, for instance, argued by many as a smart lawyer, an academic, a reasonable individual? Prof, I am. But let me ask. An academic of his own stature, a professor, a more sober, seated back kind of an individual, who many would credit for being the brain behind the presidency.
You wouldn't get Aristotle for a gladiator. You have to choose Aristotle for his time. You need a gladiator for a fight. This is a bare-knuckled fight for the vote of Mount Kenya. Why would Ruto be going for the luxuries of a professor who would be telling you, do this, do this? He needs somebody who goes there, who does not ask for money, he has it, right? Who does the job, and then we come talk about the job is done. And he has done this. He has a proven record, and I'm avoiding the specifics. He has proven record of winning the highest trophy in the battle for Mount Kenya. So when he was named, the only other person I would have expected to be named, but was not named, is my homeboy, Didi Nyoro. But between the two, Ruto didn't have a choice. It is either Didi Nyoro or Rigathi Gachagua. He has to finish the race.
You can't ask Kofi Annan to fight Mao Zedong. Can you? So, if you understand that, Kofi Annan is Kindiki. The politics on the ground, Kofi can't cope. That's what my brother Kagwanja is telling you. And that's why I'm saying you probably you are not listening. This is serious business on the ground. If, for example, you ask me, of course, they were hired for different skills. So I don't know which skills Raila was looking for when he hired Martha, but maybe the NGO organization and the other things. But the first business Raila Odinga should do is to take Martha Karua into a class on political psychology, which is taught in political science and history, so that he knows.
Why take Kenya's Iron Lady to a political class?
No, the reason is this. There's a reason why I'm telling you that.
This is probably the most decorated politically alive woman.
I'll answer to that.
Gachagua has done political science, and she can bewitch the grassroots mobilization with those skills he might have learned in that discipline. Martha is a stickler of the law. Gachagua won't care about those things first. Get people on your side. Does Martha have the capacity to get people on her side on behalf of the presidential candidate? Comparatively, if you look at Martha against Gachagua, I think Gachagua in that respect has an upper hand. But if you are talking about things...
What of the argument that a pair of two has to look, one has to either look presidential?
There is nothing like that. You know these things I hear about them. Maybe my brother Kagwanja will talk about it after myself. This story of pair of self-power does not speak to self-hands. Power is about interests. When you are seeking political power, you are looking for securing certain interests. When Raila hires Martha Karua, maybe he's looking for somebody who can secure certain electoral interests. As Kagwanja put it, you have already seen Ruto has picked on Gachagua to secure certain interests. Now, the point is, on the 9th of August, whose interests will prevail? Under the circumstances, I was trying to repair a certain deficiency in Martha Karua by recommending a political science class so that she matches Gachagua. But if it remains like that, it's okay, because I think Ruto will prevail. Martha Karua doesn't have the capacity to outsmart Gachagua in Mount Kenya.
No, I don't think it will be a contest between Gachagua and Martha. That's the wrong positioning. The point is, what are the interests of the principals in appointing the candidates they have appointed? And from the perspective of Mount Kenya, and why Kalonzo is justified to feel bad that he has been left out. because it has all boiled down to the battle for Mount Kenya. And the battle for it is not just the battle for the soul of Mount Kenya. It's a raw battle for victory in Mount Kenya. You have to be victorious. Now, Ruto does not need Gachagua to win vote in Mount Kenya. He has won 8. He has Kiambu to the total. He has Murang'a to the total. He's battling for Nyeri, and he's doing a good job.
And if Prof. Ruto has won Central, one would argue primarily facilitated by the likes of Gachagua.
That's why I'm saying Kirinyaga, he has it. He doesn't care because he has lost Meru. The game has worked against him. Kiraito and Munya don't agree, but they happen to be on the same side and fight for the same thing. So he can have a foothold in Tharaka Nithi, but that he's losing. He will also lose a grip in Embu because of Muturi. But that one he can sacrifice. What he needs is a commander who will help him hold the ground he has already captured.
Right.
And the person to do that is Gachagua. Raila needs something else. Raila needs for somebody who will not go for the hard power, but a person who will go for the hearts and minds and the soul of Mount Kenya. And that person is Mother. And it boils down to the hard power. Ruto has done the soft power. He has captured ground. It is now holding ground against any invasion by Uhuru Kenyatta or Raila in a hard way. Now for Raila, it is how to get in now very quickly and with the hands and minds. And Mother will do that. Hired for different skills, for different purposes, but for one goal, to win the vote of Mount Kenya.
All right, and because of the interest of time, perhaps let's talk of the latest Kalonzo move, which is bolting out of Azimio, announcing today that he will be vying for the country's top seat in Wiper, meaning he will be among the many presidential contenders come the 9th of August. Professor Edward, does it have political consequences?
You see, our brother Kalonzo, I've never seen a politician with so many opportunities squandered like the politician you call Kalonzo Musyoka. He gets so many, but he doesn't know how to use them. Now, I don't know with which intention he joined Azimio, because it was clear that he was irrelevant in that formation. But he still joined. Some of the political moves of Kalonzo Musyoka are suicidal. You know, they're just difficult to understand. Now, he joined there. I think he hoped to be a running mate. But after even declaring that he will be the most foolish person to deputize Raila Odinga, but he saw the script. This is a highly educated person. He knew the plot, but he didn't use it. So now that he has gone to this level, I suspect now he's fighting for relevance, because he has been condemned by Azimio, and he is now sulking. He has moved to the other side, and now he has a running mate. What Kalonzo is timing now, the only strategy he has, is to wait for these two guys, Raila Odinga and Ruto, to reach a dead end and have none of them gets 50+1. That is when I think Kalonzo hopes he will do proper negotiation and go to Raila. That is the point at which he will revenge on Raila Odinga and probably throw his weight behind Ruto, but at a high cost. But if these two guys square it out and there is no one person gets 50+1 and there is no runoff, the political career of Kalonzo is over. That is the reality. He takes too long to read the political script.
And given today in absentia at KICC, Raila Odinga mentioned of the to-be appointment of Kalonzo Musyoka as a chief minister.
Yes.
Had he remained in Azimio, would that change the arithmetics?
You know what you are hearing from Raila Odinga? Announcing a cabinet is unprecedented. It is political naivety. How do you announce a cabinet He was just playing public relations to show that he was still willing to offer Kalonzo something, so that he's not blamed. But he knew very well that Kalonzo was not there. And then he goes on to announce, before he wins the elections, he has given cabinet posts to some people. I want to ask you, Abu, you are still a young man. And I would like to tell you this so that you understand. I'm not speaking to you directly, but people of your age.
Okay.
How do you wait for 10 years for Oparanya to finish his governorship, and then he comes back to take over cabinet as you people are waiting? You wait for Joho to wait for another 10 years, then come back to take. Our children should be the ones taking over this post.
All right, Prof. So and that is separate from the question I asked you.
Yes.
The question is, for purpose of numbers, if he had remained in Azimio, accept the chief minister position, would have that tilted the numbers in favor of Azimio?
Okay, I don't think so. I think if you look at the constituents of Kalonzo Musyoka, it was not to get that kind of position. He wanted to be a running mate. Below that is demeaning. Remember, this is a former vice president of the Republic of Kenya. You can't bring him down and name him in the same place as Joho, as Oparanya. It would not have added, and I'm sure it would have annoyed his constituency even more. But if he had remained and he was named vice president, deputy president, I think it would have tilted the Ukambani vote, which is almost 1.6 million votes. Yes. It would have been tilted that. I think Raila missed an opportunity to get 1.6 million votes to his basket.
I don't think so.
And Prof, why is it demeaning? For instance, Musalia Mudavadi, a one-time presidential candidate, a NASA co-principal, now talks of a prime minister position in the post 9th of August position.
You misread that. There is no prime minister's position in UDA.
A certain percentage of government then.
Yes, you see.
Why is it not demeaning to Musalia? My argument is.
Yes.
And it's demeaning to Kalonzo.
You see what?
Both are one-time vice president.
You have to ask where Musalia is coming from. Unlike the Kenya Kwanza, unlike the Azimio group, people like Musalia walked out. They had no offer in Azimio, and there was no special offer for them, but they willingly wanted to be part of Kenya Kwanza without coercion. If you march there without coercion, that's why you are not hearing any noises from their base. Because they decided, why would I stay somewhere as a slave, like they put it, under my knees, and I can have a free time in another formation, even if I'm not getting anything done for me. So Musalia have moved there willingly. They did not go to negotiate to be a
willingly or based on interest, Prof?
No.
All right.
Yes, but their interests are they are willing to pursue their interests.
They moved there because of interest, isn't it?
Yes.
Willingly.
Willingly.
You say, okay, Professor Peter.
Yes, I think I would go slow on Kalonzo because he's my brother-in-law, and I've just met him about before I came here. I'd going to have a cup of tea with him on this matter.
How was he?
So I don't want to talk about this very much, but I could say this. I was with Mheshimiwa Kalonzo in 2012 when we were crafting the transition, and he fell prey to the decisions of his people. It was very difficult. Our constitution provides only for two major positions. That's the president and the deputy, the major substantive constitution. So the third one has to be somehow invented.
Yeah.
And when he joined Azimio, we were talking about a three-legged stool. That was the lingo that came from KCC. And the idea was that there will be a president. 2, there will be a deputy president. And 3, there will be somebody else, the third leg. So my concern was, if you envisaged a three-legged stool and the 2 legs have filled, what happened to the third leg and what is that third leg? So I think former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka is struggling with the idea of reconfiguring that leg. Him being a lawyer, unable to think about power as a product of our imagination rather than a bureaucratic entity. You can have power even when you don't occupy a bureaucratic space. And that was true of the late Charles Jonjo. Every child born in the 1960s and 80s knew that Charles Jonjo was the Attorney General. Even when other Attorney Generals came over, people used to continue to call Sharia House Kwa Jonjo. because he had managed to wield the power of an institution that we have discovered over time is insignificant. So it's the way you work. So my proposition to Mheshimiwa Kalonzo is that the third leg in Azimio is still not occupied. But how do we reconstitute that leg if it is not as straight as other legs? Because a government has two major positions. One is the policy, which is the president, and the executive, which is the prime minister or the chief minister or whatever you want to call that minister, and one deputizing the president. And therefore, at one point you are boss, and at other point somebody without anything. So that is what constitutes this. And there is already a position of secretary to the cabinet and other positions that can be built around it. Why would you dismiss this tool as a two-legged stool and not configure the way it was configured as a three-legged stool? What happened to innovation?
Professor, the argument was Kalonzo to be a running mate or there is no discussion in Azimio. That's primarily why he bolted out.
But he went for interview.
His critics.
If you go for interview, expect the results. I was one of the advocates that he doesn't go for the interview, so that we have had bargaining. But the moment you submit yourself to an interview, I submitted myself to an interview in Windsor for senators. I'm regretting because I submitted myself. And I said I'm not going because I am bound by the rules to accept the outcome of a seating that I have accepted to be a member. That's it.
The referee has given the rules.
Yes.
And Prof, for that argument, he goes for an interview. There is a short listing of the members. His name reportedly is included there.
It's a short list, yes.
One of the names is taken to three of the names are taken to the presidential flag bearer. He names one who is not Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yes.
His critics, is it not fair that they argue also that he had hard stance? A thief, if they were to work together with Raila and him, a thief of what we have seen the public mutual dislike of President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy would have started even before the 9th of August.
No, I think to be fair, Raila has named Kalonzo twice as his running mate. Let's be clear about that. Two, Kalonzo joined Raila rate during cold. Now, this time round, Raila cleverly, I personally didn't think he was so clever, but in retrospect, I am beginning to see he was clever, given what is happening. He decided to do something completely out of the ordinary, to call a panel to help him choose a deputy president in a contested area. And all the parties that are interested are called into play. Johos were there, everybody was there, and they were interviewed.
That was a cheering crowd.
That's okay, that's okay. Whatever you want to call it. It might be a charade, might be anything. But politics is drama.
Yes.
He dramatized it so beautifully and eventually has three names. And it is his discretion, depending on who is roping, to choose who is going to be his deputy. And Raila did that. Brilliant for him.
All right.
No, it's not
10 seconds.
Brilliant.
You know, Abu, the reason why I say that Kalonzo Musyoka doesn't learn from the opportunities that present themselves to him is because of this. Simply, in 2017, he was a running mate for the second time. And he kept complaining that it was his turn to run. But he had already seen the writing on the wall. Raila Odinga had already argued clearly that he had one bullet to use in 2017. But after the handshake, he withdrew and said he has now a magazine. Kalonzo should have known he's dealing with a person who believes in political deceit. And he should never have gone there to do interview. He should never have done business with
Professor,
Raila Odinga.
in less than 10 seconds, as you respond to that, you are equally an independent candidate, formerly of Jubilee membership, but you will be vying for the Senator of Muranga as an independent candidate.
I'm watching what is happening now in this speaker opposition.
He will join the UDF.
And I don't want to, I don't want people to start speculating which side, but truly, as a son of this land, I deserve a chance to read. I have taught enough, and I'll continue to teach, but I also need to
come to UDF.
And Professor, as we finish because of time, that music is an indication that our time is up. You write on regional issues, both of you. Let me ask you of the latest development in Somalia, where the president was last night defeated. Now our next president. The former president elected a second time.
Yes.
For the first time, making him the first president to be elected now twice, though not in sequence.
Yes.
Why did Farmajo lose, Prof?
Farmajo rekindled the old militancy of Siad Barre, and the Somali people did not want to go back there. That's why he lost so affirmative. Two, he did not read the truth of where the Somali people's mouth is. They have invested in Kenya and Uganda, not in Ethiopia and Eritrea. He looked north instead of looking south, where his blessings come from.
All right, Prof.
Farmajo did not read the signs very well. He even thought that he could intimidate the people of Somalia, that because I've done APCD for you, then I can win elections. But the people of Somalia have demonstrated that they are now ready to develop a democratic culture in which leaders who are not doing what they want are done away with. So it was a surprise to him, but it is a good thing for this region, it's a good thing for Somalia.
And two presidents, Prof, shaking hands after the results.
Good.
Does Kenya need to learn anything from that?
Yes.
Is there anything to learn from Somalia?
Yes.
On that matter?
We keep on talking about instability in Somalia. But when you look at the organics of politics, Somalia seem to have more things in place, more ducks in a row than Kenya.
Yes.
For example, this nonsense we are talking about power sharing, the deputy or whatever, Somalia has gone over it. They have a prime minister, they have a president, both are executive in their own way, and they work. They have a lower house and upper house, and they work.
All right.
So Somalia, the shaking of hands itself says that Somalia's democracy is mature.
Professor Peter Kagwanja, Professor Edward Kisiangan'i, thank you for your time tonight on TV47.
And thanks for making me meet my classmate.
Yes.
On the,
KU class of
90 master's degree.
Master's degree.
All right, the panel of professors wants a classmate now.